Thank you so much, Jerry, for inviting me here today, and for everybody that's here. Welcome. Uh, I can tell you right now how nervous I am to be speaking to so many people from so many places around the world. So there's fear in my heart right at the moment uh, that I might sound like an idiot or that I might not say anything useful to anybody else. But I've already prayed about this, and I've already said that exactly what my sponsor said to me this morning is just turning it over to the higher power that I have in my life today to put the words in my mouth and the ideas in my head. And it's worked in the past. There are times when, despite my fear of not sounding like I know anything, I've had people say after I've told my story, oh, the part that you said about XYZ, that really helped me. I really got something out of that. So when I hear that from people, I guess it does work, doesn't it? If you have a higher power in your life, you can let go of the fear. And I've had plenty of that in my life in the past. Let me give you some idea of where I'm coming from. So I am in recovery today, and I am a compulsive eater. And I'm in recovery because of OA, because of the OA program, and because I have found a higher power that I can use in this program. My top weight when I was a younger man, and not more than 7 or 8 years ago, was 260 pounds at least. I'm under 6 feet tall. Today, I'm either at or below my goal weight. I'm around in the 170s. I get weighed every month on the first day of the month. And I've been able to maintain that weight loss now for about 6.5 of those, or maybe up to 7 years out of the 7.5 that I've been back in program. Yeah, I decided I was such a smart guy after 14 years in program from 1990 through 2002 that I could do it on my own. So not only have I been afraid, but I've also been pretty stupid to think that. But it's my disease that was talking to me at the time, telling me, oh, you've done this so well for 14 years. You've kept the weight off. You don't have to go to all those meetings. They take up so much time. You don't have to do all that calling, and all those things take up time. You can have time. You're retired from work. You can retire from OA. And anytime you start gaining weight again or start overeating, you know exactly what to do, and you can get back to program. That's what my brain was telling me in 2002. And it wasn't long before I was up to those 260 pounds from 170 or so when I decided this was the way to go. So that was a lesson that I had to learn. But you need to know some things from the past before what happens next makes much sense. So I was born in the 1940s, grew up in the 50s and 60s, of course. And I grew up in the city of Boston in a section called Dorchester. We lived in a 3-decker house on a little tiny street. And I was a little skinny kid running around on those streets with the other kids in the neighborhood. All the pictures of me up through 2nd grade are just a little skinny kid. We moved from the city to the suburbs when I was going into 3rd grade. And all the pictures after that are a chubby kid. And my memories of growing up and being in the neighborhood and all that, or of being the kid that got made fun of, didn't get picked first for any of the teams when kids were picking teams, that kids teased on the playground. And that made me fearful, for sure. I was always afraid I was going to get beat up or hurt. So one of the things I turned to was to try to be funny. I tried to just act the fool in the playground. And I got so good at it that the kids told the teachers that, oh, yeah, Ken can really, he makes us laugh. He does funny things. And they actually had me come up in front of the class, petrified, and then acted up the little pantomimes that I had been doing for the kids. And everybody laughed. I was hoping they were laughing with me and not laughing at me, because they'd done plenty of the laughing at me before that. At any rate, I always felt like growing up into my adulthood that I missed the training manuals and the how to do manuals for just about everything. I wasn't good at sports. I wasn't good at making things or planning things or working out, or I didn't know anything about how to lose the weight that I had or how to change the fact that I was the fat kid that was also weak. I used to get comic books, I remember, and it had advertisements for you could build your body up to look like Superman, and all the girls would swoon and all of that. I never did anything about that. I never tried to learn how to do anything about that. I just went on being afraid that I wouldn't be able to do anything. And the other fear that happened when I started around 7th or 8th grade was I am never going to have a girlfriend. There is not a girl in the school, there's not a girl in my neighborhood that would be interested in me because I was so immature, baby-faced, and overweight. So around high school, I figured out the only solution I could think of to take care of that fear was to stop eating as much as I could. So I just restricted my food for that whole senior year in high school. And by the time I graduated, I was slender. I put on a tux to go to graduation, and I really thought I looked great. Actually, I have a photo, and I did look great. I said, "Wow, that's the new me. That this is going to be good." I went off to college and got on the ROTC, so I had a military uniform to put on. I knew that would help. I was petrified of the idea of being in the military, but it gave me a uniform and it got me a girlfriend, my first girlfriend, senior year. And that lasted till I was a junior, till the end of that year. And of course, I had gained the weight back because I couldn't restrict anymore, and I still had no idea what to do about any of that. Well, I got through college and I went to work. I was afraid that I wasn't prepared for the kind of work that I was doing, but I just went ahead and did it anyway. And what I remember about why I ate the way I did was two things. I didn't know any other way to eat. My family didn't eat healthy when I was growing up. So I didn't know what healthy portions were. I didn't know what healthy foods were. My favorite foods were anything made out of white flour and sugar and cooked in fat. Those are my favorite things to eat. Anything that was fattening was high on my list of things to enjoy. And that word enjoy was the key, because I wasn't enjoying a lot of things in my life, and a lot of things that I was afraid of. And I didn't have any other way to find satisfaction other than eating the foods that I really liked and whenever I could get a hold of them. So that's what I did. And it certainly didn't help my body image any to eat that way. Somehow, there are so many things as I look back on my life, so many times that something happened that I had no idea why it happened, but it was something that was good for me. When I was in Dorchester, I ran out between two parked cars into that little street, and a car slammed on its brakes just a foot from my body, this little second grade kid that I was. And I could have been dead there, but somehow I was protected. And there were many things that happened along the way. The most important one was in that first year of work. There was a woman in the school with me that I was working in, and for some reason, she thought I was worth spending time with. And we spent time together. And we spent a lot of time together, and I realized that she would date me, and she did. And it took 3 years for her to convince me that I should ask her to marry her. Thank God she did. And thank God I finally did, but I was too afraid to make that commitment on my own. She really had to force me to do it. And it was, again, a lifesaver for me, just like that car stopping a foot from my arms. We've been married ever since. That was 1969 that we got married. We just celebrated our 50, whatever it is, anniversary. And I can't tell you what a change maker she has been in my life. She and I went to the pay and weigh programs together when we were first married, and I learned a ton of things about food and nutrition that I never knew before. Didn't keep the weight off forever, though, because as we all know, diets end. And those were diets. We had 2 kids, my wife and I. My son, born in 1973, he's now in his 50s, decided when he was in high school that drugs and alcohol were the key to his enjoyment of life. And he and I shared many of the same compulsions. Food in particular is the one we shared. I was never that hung up on drugs or alcohol, but he did, and scared the pants off of both my wife and me. And we decided we had to go to a drug rehab, put the whole family in a drug rehab to get him straightened out. And the drug rehab taught us the 12 steps. We had to memorize them. And it also taught me that I had a problem myself, and that was my overeating, and that it was a disease that I had to deal with on my own. And so they sent me to OA, which I thought was spelled AWAY. Why do they want me to go to OA? I don't know what that is. Anyway, I found a meeting and found out exactly what it was. And I worked at it because I wanted my son to recover. So I worked really hard at it. Got a sponsor. He asked me if I wanted to lose weight in a hurry. I told him I did. He gave me a gray sheet of paper, said, follow this food program. 3 meals a day, nothing in between, and very restrictive. And it's the basic food plan that I've had ever since, although it's much less restrictive today than it ever was back then. But that's what I did for 14 years. I had this guy that was a sponsor. They said, find somebody who has what you want and ask him how he got it. I found this handsome guy in the room, and I said, that's what I want. I want to look like him. And that's what I got. I got to look like him. I got thin, and I got much better looking than when I was overweight. But then, as I said, in 2002, I decided I could do it on my own. Big mistake. Big mistake. What brought me back to the rooms was in 2017, my son had long since moved to California, was living out there, had a home of his own, was working, but was morbidly obese. We decided to go and visit him, and my daughter, who was also living in Los Angeles at the time, told us before we got there, you're going to be shocked when you see your son at how large he's gotten. And indeed we were. And here I was eating the foods that he was eating, almost as much as he was eating. I wasn't as big as he was, but I knew I could get there if I really ate the way I wanted to. And I was telling him, I can't watch you eat the way you are. You're killing yourself with food. I was doing the same thing. I was so humiliated to be such a hypocrite. And it finally drove me back to the rooms of Overeaters Anonymous. I came back home in January of 2018 and went back to that first meeting that I had gone to when I was told to go to OA from the drug rehab. And I walked into that first meeting saying, I'm going to take this slow. I don't want to get back into this so fast. I'm afraid I won't do it right. And I don't want to get into all of that work, the meetings and the calling every day and the food plans. Guy came up to me right after that meeting that was in that meeting room and said, would you like me to be your sponsor? And I knew once again, just like when Brenda said that convinced me that I should marry her, I knew that I had to say yes to this guy too. And he has been my sponsor until just recently when his health has been such that he can't sponsor me anymore. But I have another sponsor now. But he was amazing. He brought me to realize that the first 3 steps were the 3 most important ones for me, to really turn my will and my life over to a higher power. A higher power that I had learned growing up was someone to fear. Everything was based on fear that I remember from my religion of growing up. You're going to go to hell if you do these things, and you got to go to confession and tell somebody all about what you did, and then go accept a punishment for what you did. This was a different higher power that I was learning about in OA. And the one I have today is so different from anything that I was thinking about in the past, because today I pray every morning and I pray every night with gratitude for what I have and what I've been given, and for the willingness and the ability to do what I need to do and what my higher power wants me to do. I need to know his will and have the ability and the willingness to carry it out. And I pray for that every morning. And I write an action plan. I love action plans. I didn't know about action plans the first time I was in OA, but they were one of the tools when I came back. And I do an action plan every day that has all the things that I think I might need to do to keep my recovery going and to get exercise and to keep my body as healthy as I can get it. Thank you. And so part of my action plan every day is doing some exercise, doing a stretch routine, listening to meditation tapes to learn how better meditate, and to spend time on my knees and to call other people in the program, use all of those tools that we are given to use. And that's part of my program every day. And my food plan, as I said, is 3 meals a day, nothing in between. And every once in a while, I need to be reminded that that disease is just waiting on the outside, just waiting to get back into my brain, get active back in my brain, and instill the fear that I need to have to know that I can still go back to that idea that I can do it on my own. I had an experience the other day where I don't eat anything in between meals became someone was offering me something to just taste. I had already refused any of that food because I had already finished my meal. And my brain said to me when she offered it to me that time, you can just take a little taste. It'll be like you're just finishing up your lunch that you just finished eating. And I took a taste. It was just shocking to me. And it has instilled the fear in me that that's how close I am to giving up what I have gained, to giving up the abstinence that I've had now for 7.5 years. Every day, one day at a time, can go away just like that. And that fear will propel me forward. I'm hoping to continue to ask my higher power for the willingness and the ability to keep this abstinence that I have today. And I know it's a lot of work. I spend a lot of time on my program every day, but it's worth it. Why? Because if I don't do it, I'm going to be maybe as obese as my son still is today, because I know I could get there if I really turned over my life to the food and not to a higher power. So I appreciate very much the opportunity to remind myself of where I come from, and that the fear of that going back has to be there in the back of my mind to keep me using my higher power to keep me abstinent today. Thanks so much. I'm Ken, a compulsive eater,